Okay, you guys, welcome to the podcast. I am here with my guest today, Ken Rideout. And Ken, I'm going to start by giving the little intro of what I've learned about you, just a little bit. And then I'd love for you to share about yourself in your own words. So first and foremost, Ken is a husband and father of 4 children, works full-time, while also being the co-host of a top-rated podcast, The Fight with Teddy Atlas. And now this is where I have to even use my notes because of so many great recent accolades. So Teddy just won the Masters Division in the New York City Marathon in 2:33, baller, and also took second in the World Marathon Championships in London. And let's see here, won the Myrtle Beach Marathon in 2:30, and that was a day before you turned 50. So all of this is in the last 6 months. Ken, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always feel super humbled and honored and privileged that anyone wants to talk to me or cares about my opinion on anything. So thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share your story. I mean, for that right there, like, I can tell your aura of your attitude is like, yes, there's some amazing things you've done in life, but like, here you are, still also a husband and a father of 4 kids,
Yeah, it's my most important jobs.
Right. So why don't you, Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
Sure. I think you hit a pretty good summation there with the husband and dad part. I work in finance. I recently, with a few other guys, launched a specialty finance company. We provide non-dilutive working capital for inventory finance for consumer packaged good companies or brands. That has taken a ton of my time. I'm originally from Boston. I worked in finance for the past 20 years. I lived in, when I left Boston, I moved to New York. I lived in New York, London, Hong Kong, LA, and now Nashville, Tennessee. Which one of these things don't belong? I'm in Middle Tennessee, where I never thought I'd be, but I like it here, and it's the kids are enjoying it. And yeah, on top of that, I am an active runner. I don't think, it's funny, I don't think of myself as a runner. I just recognized early that running was something that if you dedicate some time and serious commitment, you can quickly rise to the top of your rankings, whatever those rankings may be. Initially, it started out for me as age group rankings, then racing against all the other amateurs. And now, I don't know, I want to beat everybody. This past Saturday, week ago today, I came in second in the Nashville half marathon, like 15,000 people between the marathon and the half marathon, and a young 27-year-old professional runner beat me by 38 seconds. But man, that pissed me off more than you can ever imagine. Like, I could have beat that guy, even though it was a 90-second PR for me. I ran 1:10:30 roughly, and he ran just, 1:10:02 or something like that. And, but yeah, I didn't start out thinking, hey, I want to be the best runner in the world. I just wanted to run and see how good I could do for myself. I started trying to break 3 hours in the marathon. I'm sorry, I'm just jumping right into the running part because I know that that's a big focus of your podcast. But I started out just trying for other people listening. And it's interesting to me that people are impressed or enamored with my results. And I tell people, look, I have nothing special. I wasn't naturally gifted in anything. I'm like the jack of all trades, master of none. But the one thing that I will do is outsuffer anyone. I'd rather die than lose. Someone asked me the other day, I was doing an interview with someone, I forget what publication it was, but it was a guy in his 50s, and he said, dead serious, he said, aren't you afraid of getting injured or, even dying, working too hard, in a race like that? And I looked at him like he was crazy. And I thought, dude, I'm ready to die when I race. And I know people think, oh, that's hyperbole and he's full of shit. But the truth is, when people climb Mount Everest, you could die. They do it, and thousands of people do it every year. So no, I don't want to die. But there's a part of my mind that goes to that place where I'm like, let's do this. I'm going to like run until I collapse to try to win this race. And interestingly, at New York City, as soon as I crossed the finish line, I was violently throwing up. And, you know, at the finish line of a big marathon like that, I had the luxury of being, you know, in the top, let's say 50 or 60 overall. So there weren't a lot of people. As a matter of fact, Shalane Flanagan, who won it a year or two prior, was closing on me fast. And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not letting Shalane beat me in the finishing shoot. And I sprinted. And that actually is what helped me win the Masters Division 40 and over. I mean, I won my own age group 50 and over by 16 minutes. But that extra push almost killed me. I started throwing up, and, you know, they're trying to rush you out of the finishing shoot. Like, come on, you got to keep it moving. And I was like, dude, will you get off me? And then the guy knocked me down because I was like, you know, barely standing up as it was. And he's like, oh, we need an ambulance over here, or medics. And I see them come in with a wheelchair. I jumped up so fast and like ran out of there. And a second before, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. I hope I don't die. Oh, a wheelchair and there's cameras everywhere? No, thank you. Rather be dead. And just took every ounce of energy I had to like get the hell out of there. But anyway, I digress. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Go ahead.
Well, we'll dive back into some pieces for sure of that, some of your story. But let's just talking about the New York City Marathon, because it was so recent, and just to what you were just sharing with us. So like, and I saw this and something you had said and a quote, and like, you'll suffer better than anybody. And so
yes,
I'm curious, a couple things. One, has it been like that for your journey of running? Like when you first started running to now, has it always been that just where you were? Like when you started, so you suffered at a different athletic ability versus now. And then second, what do you feel allows you to get to that point? I think that's a huge thing for any of us that could take away is like, you know, even myself, when I think about it, like, how do you push past that point of like, here's comfort, here's uncomfort. And to me, suffer would be like all the way over here. So yeah, if you could explore that a little bit more.
I've definitely learned to suffer over the years with like kind of pushing the boundaries further and further to see what can I actually take? Like, how much punishment can I actually take? Like, how long can I go at this heart rate? Like, and I learned a lot of that early on from bike riding. I think bike riding will teach you how to suffer like no other sport, because your body, your cardio system, when you're running, everything is working. It's get your heart rate up. It's the most bang for your buck if you're going to exercise, if your body can take the pounding, which is a whole nother conversation. But assuming your body can take the punishment, an hour of running trumps 2 hours of bike riding for me. But a bike ride for me is never 2 hours. It's like 4 to 6 hours typically on a weekend ride. And when you get that feeling of riding in like a pace line or a group ride or a bike race where you're hanging onto the back like, oh Christ, I'm going to get dropped and then I'm never going to get back on once you lose the pack. And everyone who's ridden a bike competitively or aggressively can relate to this. You have that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose the group and then I'm going to be riding the next 20, 50 miles by myself. This sucks. And 10 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm still on. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, you're like, let me get to the front and do some work. And you're like, it's crazy how your body responds to that. So suffering is like a learned trait, but I would say that it never, ever gets easier. So like I tell people 5K is just as painful as a marathon. It's just a different type of pain. It's different kind of suffering. It's like that, almost like hyperventilating for, you know, call it 16, 17 minutes in a 5K versus not quite hyperventilating in a marathon. But to me, the marathon like starts at 20 miles. Like you should be able to get to 20 miles without feeling like, oh, I'm dying. At 20 miles, then all bets are off. Then it's like willpower. Is like, you don't want to go so hard that you're like, okay, I can run 7, like whatever your pace is. Like I can just run X minute pace now and still be comfortable. It's like, can I get to 20 in me? Can I find the right balance of getting, if it's 540 pace, can I get to 20 in 540 pace and still have enough in the tank to run those last 6.2 miles in the same pace? Or do I lose a little? If I go at 5:30, can I hold 5:50 for the last 6 minutes, which will still 6 miles, which will still get me faster than where I want? So it's all like, to me, marathon is a lot of gambling. But to answer your question, like the suffering is learned. No, it never gets easier. You just get faster. It's once you learn to suffer and you know that pain. Okay, whether you're running 6-minute miles or 5-minute miles, it sucks if that's your best effort. And part of the reason to me that this suffering is bearable is just through my own life experiences. I worked for 4 years as a guard in a maximum security prison. I grew up in a really rough environment. In hindsight, I couldn't imagine my kids in the situations that I was in as a child. And I wasn't like, I guess I was like, I don't want to say I was abused physically, but if I saw someone whacking the shit out of their kids on a daily basis with a belt, I'd be like, they're abusing that kid. But to me, that was like, oh, doesn't everyone get hit with a belt every single day? And then I have a brother who's 11 months younger than me, who's been in and out of prison his whole life. And just for context as to the environment I was growing up in. So from my from my earliest childhood memories, I just felt massive anxiety, but always a feeling of like, I'm not supposed to be here. I got to get out of here. This place, these people suck. This place sucks. I'm being tortured. Like, I just can't stand it. And at times my family and even friends at the time would be like, oh, you think you're better than everyone. And there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I do. And I am. You guys are awful people. Like, it was just a shit environment. So bringing that back to running now, when I think about suffering in a race, I'm like, dude, this is not suffering. This is throwing rocks on the Gaza Strip is suffering. Trying to get out of Syria while your government is bombing you on one side and ISIS is on the other. Like, that's suffering. That's hard. Running? Come on. This is like, and I think about that when I hit difficult moments in races, more so in training. Training is 10 times harder than a race. It's not even close. To be able to do, difficult, hard, like 22-mile runs in the heat in the middle of the summer in Tennessee versus a beautifully supported New York, a London marathon, like, that's not hard. So when people say, is that hard? I'm like, no, it's not hard. This is just like a mental exercise of like, let me just make sure I'm getting the most out of myself. And quite frankly, the time doesn't matter and the result doesn't matter. It only matters to you or to me in the sense that, what are my goals? Like, okay, initially I wanted to run a sub 3-hour marathon. Well, okay, I ran 2:58, and then I was like, holy shit, I wonder how fast I can go. I bet I can run under 2:45. Then I ran 2:45, and then I ran 2:40, and then I said, man, I think I can get under 2:30. It's crazy in hindsight how quickly the time went from 2:58 to 2:28. But that was when I realized, like, when I was able to get under 3 hours, I was like, I'm putting all these like artificial limitations on myself. Like, who's to say I can't run low 2:30, under 2:30? And literally the time jumps went from 2:45 to 2:40, 3 races in a row, to 2:33. The 2:33 was in Tucson, and that's like a very fast net downhill course. But when you look at the profile of that race, it's easy to be like, oh, you're gonna smash it. No, that 2:33, I was on death's door. I finished 3rd overall, but I suffered like a dog. It looks like it's all downhill, but it's very gradual in the desert by yourself. It's nothing nice. But relatively speaking, it's a fast marathon. So then once I got there, and keep in mind, I did all that without a coach, without knowing what I was doing. I just run a lot. And then I got a coach, Mario Fraioli, who's the host of the Morning Shakeout. And I went from 2:33 to 2:28 in it took me probably 2 years to get down under 2:30.
Okay.
And then I ran to London this past, 5 weeks before New York this year. I ran 2:29 at the World Marathon Majors age group world championship. I lost by 50 seconds to a guy over 50, which going into that race, I would have bet you $10,000 that no one over 50 can beat me. And that's a whole nother story that we can talk about in a minute about how the guy pulled some like underhanded bullshit to beat me. And of all the things that happened this year, that pisses me off more than anything, because I don't feel like I had a fair chance to race head to head with the guy, as was the intention of the organizers. We were all supposed to start in the same area. There were 3 distinct separate start areas because there's so many people in London, and they merged together around mile 4. Different routes, but very similar
profiles,
elevation profiles, and it all merged together. So when it merged together, he's a minute up the road, unbeknownst to me, because he started in this other area where he wasn't supposed to. And everyone who qualified in the age group world championships, we had special numbers on front and back. So if someone passes you, you know they're in your age group. If you want them, you better go. So when I started with everyone in my age group, thinking everyone is here, at 2 miles, I couldn't even see them behind me. It was just me and the motorcycle for 3 miles in the London Marathon. I was like, all right, I got it. Let's go. Let's be smart, hold a steady pace, and, at the end, have something in the tank if someone runs past me. Well, that's exactly what I did. So when I crossed the finish line, I'm thinking, I did it. I won the age group world championships. Awesome victory. On to the next. I looked at the results and I said, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? And then I looked on his Strava profile, and sure enough, the sneaky bastard lined up over here with he says the British National Championship, which, why would you care about the National Championship when you're in the World Championships, right? Anyway, I was pretty pissed off just because, listen, if I know the guy's a minute, and by the way, he had a minute lead on me at 3 miles. I ran the first 3 miles at 5:20 pace. So he went out at 5 flat and ran a 5:29. And like, to me, anyone who knows running knows no one who's good enough to run under 2:30 is running a suicide mission for the first 5K, unless part of their plan is to get off the front and pray to God no one knows they're up there and doesn't try to close on them, because how do I know he's up there? I think I'm winning.
Right.
Anyway, I'm so, man, when I think about it, I want to bust that guy's jaw.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to see him on a start line somewhere and tell him what I think and race him anywhere again. Because maybe he would have beat me. I don't know. He's clearly a very good runner. But I would have liked to at least have the chance to run head to head as the race was intended to be, to know who's here, who's not, and then let's see who's the best. But he knows, and I know the way he did it is underhanded and at best poor sportsmanship, and at worst blatant cheating.
Well,
nevertheless,
I hope you get an opportunity to take that on again and to race each other. Ken, I want to take it back to, when did you start actually running? Because you said you did progress pretty quick. In your 30s?
Mid-30s, yeah.
Okay. And so how long did you kind of stay like you were just running versus like you started training for marathons and getting more specific?
Actually, that's a good question. I didn't start out just running. I saw the Ironman in Hawaii on NBC, and I was like, holy shit, man, look at this. Can you believe all these people are doing it? And then I caught myself admiring the accomplishments of other people, that I was like, I always look at things and I'm like, what's so special about that? And that's why I said at the beginning of this, I don't have anything special. Everything I have is available to everyone. You can do this. You just have to decide it's important enough to. And I looked at it and I said, it made me nervous, and I didn't have any physical challenges on the horizon. When I was younger, I boxed for the New York Athletic Club. I had done some other things, but never. I felt like there was always some missing outlet. Work was really important to me for a while, but I never liked it. So long story short, I got a bike, started riding it, thought that I was pretty good at it, relatively speaking. Either that or the people I was training with weren't that good, and I thought that they were good. And I just set a goal to go to Hawaii and race that. And I think I did, I want to say either my second or third Ironman, I qualified for Kona, and I ended up doing Kona 3 times. One of the biggest failures of my life was qualifying in maybe 12 or 13, and I didn't finish. I just was suffering like a dog on the run course, and I was just like, ah, fuck it, I'm just gonna step off. And it was the biggest regret of my life in terms of like athletics, because I was like, man, quitting is like so much harder than suffering. Quitting lasts with you forever. Suffering is over as soon as the race is over. And that was the beginning of like really my journey. Because up till then, it was just like I just did exactly what was supposed to be done. And I went there and I finished. So the next year I went back and I did like a 9:30 something there, which is pretty relatively good for Hawaii. And I ended up doing it 3 times. And
so that was probably late 30s too then, by the time you were doing that?
Yeah. I think the last time I did it, I was 42 or 3, something like that. And no, it was 2000. I think I did it in 2016 was the last one. I was 45. And the first one was 2012. What would that make me? 41? Yeah, something like that. So I recognized that my running was getting better through triathlon, but that was all I was doing was triathlon. So I was running, a few days a week, biking, swimming. And then I started to focus on, I just probably for a year, I just ran 10 miles every single day. But 6 days a week, I'd run 10 miles. 5 days a week, I'd run 10 miles. One day I'd run 15 to 20. And the other day I would bike like 60, 70 to 100 miles every Saturday with a couple of friends, with my buddy Rob Moore, who produces the podcast, The Fight with Teddy Ellis. And he's also an accomplished endurance athlete. As a matter of fact, when I lived in California, I won the Malibu Half Marathon 2 out of 3 years. And this year I moved to Nashville, and he lives now in Malibu where the race is held, like just down the street. And he won it and ran like a 2-minute PR. And I was like, I was almost happier for him than I was for myself, because I mean, he's an incredible runner. He doesn't need my support or compliments. He ran a 112 there, so he's a legit runner. But that was a huge improvement. I was just happy for him to see him improve so much, because I know it was important to him. And he had also done Hawaii 3 times. So yeah, and in my mid-30s is when I started this journey, and then like probably my mid-40s is when I decided to focus on running. And it took me I set a goal of winning a marathon. I had won the Malibu Half Marathon a few times. Like I said, I won the Pasadena Half Marathon. That was a big one. 9,000 people finished in the Rose Bowl. It was on KTLA, local news. They interviewed me right after the race. It was actually pretty funny. The woman was like, "Oh my God, here's the winner. Yeah, how was it out there?" And I said, it doesn't say much about the competition when an old man is winning by this much, and probably ruined the days of a lot of the participants. But I was just trying to be funny. But so I set a goal of I want to win a marathon, like a real marathon, not like, a local backwater marathon with 20 people. So the Myrtle Beach Marathon in South Carolina just happened to be one of the first in-person marathons coming out of COVID that was relatively close to me, that looked like they had decent turnouts, but no pro field. And yeah, I won that in 2:30 flat. I won by a minute.
What's a decent turnout? Tell everybody that, because not everybody will be up to date on.
I want to say there was like 3,000 people.
Okay.
It was a marathon.
Yeah.
It was a legit big race with a finish festival and all that stuff. And the crazy thing is, before the race, and this has happened to me a few times, and it happened to me recently in Nashville, I went to register. They asked me my projected finish time. I ran 2:28 in Sacramento, December 19, before COVID, right before COVID started. So I told them my projected finish time was 2:26. I just didn't want to and they said in the race registration link, we're going to seed people based on projected finish time. So I get my bib number in the mail, and it's like corral number 4 or something. And I was like, for Christ's sakes, I don't want to go there and have to A, do a staggered start, B, navigate through 800 people. I want to compete with the top guys. And they were like, yeah, no, sorry, it's this is it, COVID. I said, dude, not COVID. It says right on your registration, seeding based on time. Tell me who's going to run fast on 2:26. I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I want to win this race. Give me the opportunity. And they still didn't want to do it. And my friend Josh Cox, who's Des Linden's agent, he's like a running super agent, called them and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, have him come and see me before the race. So literally the morning of the race, I'm like, I got a little bit of anxiety with the whole thing, thinking like, oh, no, there's not a chance I'm not going to start standing on the start line. I know that. I started New York Marathon standing on the start line, like on TV. It's just the way I do it. It's my own personal thing. I'm just like, no, I got too much time and energy invested to be messing around. It's coming through, guys. So I started, and I saw the woman at before the start. She changed the corral. And I was like a little bit bent out of shape because it's unnecessary anxiety. And then, of course, as soon as I finished, I see her. I was like, hey, you want this number back? Like, I told you, basically, like, I told you I was going to do this. And I wasn't trying to be a jerk. But she was like, oh, my God, wow, so impressive. But I'm not, I hate to sound like a jerk, like, oh, I'm going to win this race. But, man, if I got a lot of time and energy invested into doing these things. And to get there and have someone kind of dismissively be like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, everyone thinks they're going to win. Scram. I was like, oh, it motivated me more than you could ever imagine. So at the last week at the Nashville half marathon, I get there I get my number, and they accidentally gave me a marathon for the marathon instead of half marathon. So I went over, hey, I think you made a mistake. And they're like, oh, okay, no problem. Half marathon, you're good. And as I was talking to the help desk, keep in mind, there's like 15,000 people here. So it's madness, right? And I'm like, by the way, I see some people have elites on their bib in Corral 1, and I'm in Corral 2. Again, they asked me for my projected finish time. I put 107. And so I said, why do some people have elite numbers, and why am I in elite Corral 2? 107 would win this race the last 20 years. And they're like, oh, no, those are the elites. Listen, you don't want to get in front of those guys. They're going to like come through so fast, they'll run you over. In my mind, I was like, how fucking dare you? They're going to run me over? No, I was like, I'm going to beat all these guys. It sounds crazy to people, but I use this as such motivation. I'm like, these dorks they couldn't beat me at anything. And I got so angry, and I ran 90 seconds faster than I've ever run.
There you go. Way to, I think it's good to hear. I'm hearing like you've channeled that anger or that like confrontation. You've channeled the circumstances, the situation, to use that as motivation. Whereas some of us maybe take that in and internalize that, and it comes out in a different way that doesn't serve us. You use that on a way that could serve you and be like, watch me. And to that, I don't know any of these people other, lining up and racing against you, but it's just an interesting thing, I think, to even point out and be like, people maybe don't know your name if you're not in the news or a big thing, like, and what does that matter? And just, I think even in a perspective, you can look at this and be like, just because somebody doesn't know your name, who you are, doesn't mean you can't, one, believe in yourself like you did. You're like, whoa, what? So that belief in yourself is there first so that you can take charge and be like, no. This is not how I roll. This is not how we're going to roll. For anybody else to use that, like, believe in yourself. And then two, it doesn't matter what social media says about you, what your brother says, like what anybody says about you, that when you line up at the race, whether that's an actual marathon, the race of life, like, that you line up, like, to show up authentically as you are with all your power and strength, like, regardless of who else is on that line. I think that's a big takeaway from me from that, Ken, was like, yeah, like, show up as your badass self, like, no matter who else is out there, and knowing that you can do it.
I tell people all the time when they're like, do you think you can do this? Do you think you can do that? I'm like, dude, when I start at Boston or New York Marathon, until the pros beat me, I'm convinced that I might be able to win the race. I genuinely am. I'm like, when I ran Sacramento at 2:28, unfortunately, I probably could have ran faster. I went through 10K like off the back of like the best U.S. pro marathon runners in the country. I mean, I was like, I'm going to stay with these guys as long as I can. F it. Let me see what I can do. And I just convinced myself that and look, a lot of these guys I really admire, but on race day, I'm like, these guys are just a bunch of dorks, and I'm going to smash them. And this is like, in a battle of like mental toughness, I'm going to win. They might be more physically gifted or physically like fit, but let's see. And it's not from a place of arrogance. It's just the process that I have to go through to get the most out of myself. I have to convince myself that this is a fight, and everything that I do in the lead up and in the act of racing is like fighting. I'm not trying to be a friend. I don't want to like hand you water. I'm not a horse sport, but I don't want to. I want to race. Like, let's try and kill each other, and afterwards we can be best pals.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal process. I think I'm pretty polite, but I've been on both ends of the spectrum that you just described, where no one knows me, and they're kind of dismissive. It's funny, like in every situation, if you're in a weightlifting gym, the biggest muscle head is like the alpha of that group. At the start of a marathon, the like skinniest running dweeb is the alpha of that group. Whereas I'm like, this is all just life. The musclehead is still a goon and a musclehead, no matter where he is, even lifting weights. The dweeb at the start line of a marathon is still a dweeb wherever he goes. And in the cross section of life, I just try to like, not that I'm the coolest or the alpha of the group, but I convince myself that everyone else is just as effed up and just as nervous as I am. And somehow I'm going to be less nervous and less anxious about this than them, because everyone is scared all the time, including me, of everything. I'm scared talking in front of people. I'm scared doing the thought of doing a podcast interview. I'm afraid of what people might think of me. But the minute you stop worrying about what other people think of you is like a moment of freedom that you can't experience until you genuinely like stop caring about. Because anyone who's going to take the time to be negative about you, like, do you even care about them? F them. Who cares? What do I care about someone who's got negative energy to me? But the point I was making earlier is I've been that person who's anonymous, but I've also been at start lines where a lot of people recognize me, whether from the podcast or different running things that I've done. And it's neither here nor there. I'm like, hey, what's up? Okay, cool. You know who I am. I'm not trying to hide. Like, let's go. You know that you're going to have to like try to kill me to beat me. So there's no advantage or disadvantage to being recognized. It just is what it is. You have to like deal with every situation in that mindset. I hope I'm not coming across like an aggressive asshole or a jerk, because I don't think in my day-to-day life I am. But when it comes to achieving my goals, look, there's a level of aggressiveness that I have to like do the things that I do. And that's just my emotional process. People might see me like, I've never seen him act aggressive like that. But in my mind, I've got a whole story I'm telling myself about either they've slighted me or just like a fighter would do with his opponent.
Okay, I kind of want to touch on that because you've kind of mentioned that a couple times. P.S. Sorry, I just got like a cold for my little guys. So, I wanted to dig a little deeper into like whether it's this aggressive self that is, but just in general, like you have this aura then of like belief in yourself. You 100%, like you said, when you're going to line up at New York City or Boston Marathon, like you're going to win it. That's your thought. I'm curious if there's anything behind that you can share so that other people could build up that belief in themselves to be like, yeah, I'm going to do, like kind of like squirt around. And instead of that, they're like, no, I'm going to win this, whatever win this is in life. Like, what helps you to build up your mental, like your thoughts like that, to believe in yourself so much?
I have, like everyone, all the fear and anxiety that everyone else has about everything. I like to describe it this way: is I have two people in my head, an alpha and a beta. And the beta is like, oh, dude, we're scared. We didn't do enough training. We should have done this. We should have done that. And in some instances in my life, the beta takes over, whether it's like inaction on something with regards to work, making bad decisions when I was younger about like doing drugs or, just making shitty decisions. Then I have an alpha, just like everyone else. Then I have an alpha personality that's like takes over, like in the morning when it's time to run and it's pouring rain and it's 40 degrees. And I'm like, oh man, it's one thing when it stops raining during the run, but when it's pouring from the jump, that alpha personality is like, one guy's like, yo, I don't want to do this, dude. It's freezing. Let's go on the treadmill. And then this other guy is like, F you, we're going. And this guy takes over in certain decision making. And same thing with races. There's like, a guy was like, well, I'm scared. Oh my God, what about this guy? What about that guy? And then this other guy was like, stop being a sissy. Let's go. Let's kill these guys. F them all. Let's go. No one's going to punch you in the face when it's all over. No one's going to choke you unconscious when you're tired. It's only you against you. Let's go. And that's my internal dialogue all the time. I know I probably sound like a psychopath to people, but that's the truth. If you really break down what's going on, you have the part of your brain that's trying to protect itself and knowing, oh shit, dude, don't get to that point. You might die. And then another guy saying, you're not going to die. No one dies in a road race. And if they do, they had pre-existing conditions. You don't have any. Stop with the excuses. This guy always wins. When I wake up in the morning, the beta is like, on race day, the beta in me is like, oh man, dude, we don't want to do this. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's just sleep. Why did we sign up for this? And the other guy's like, let's go. Let's get these guys. Like, rally the troops. And this guy always wins, but it is not. It's not like I just wake up and like, I think people think like, man, you've got that mindset of, no, I have the same exact mindset you have. I just decided that letting the alpha be a stronger voice in my brain was much more important to me than comfort, that temporary, momentary comfort of staying in bed or not doing something that's uncomfortable. Because no one has ever finished a run or a workout and regretted it.
Oh my gosh. Amen, brother. I think that was so powerful. Like, I love that. And I think people need to hear that more. We all have a human brain and we both have that little alpha beta. That's a great way to like describe it and really visualize it and be like, bitch, sit down. This is the one we're listening to. Like, everybody has to do that. Even I have to do the same thing. I can think of the exact same thing, waking up in the morning and wanting to be like, oh, but I listen.
I can tell you about professional fighters who have cried in the locker room before they're going out to fight. Can you imagine crying? You're so scared. But they go anyway.
Yeah.
It's like old adage. Like, listen, fear is there. If you try to run and hide from fear, you're only lying to yourself. Everyone is scared. Mike Tyson was scared. There's a video. My partner on the podcast, Teddy Alice, was Mike Tyson's first trainer. There's a very famous video of Mike Tyson as like a 16-year-old amateur about to fight in the national championships, the national golden gloves, and he's outside in his robe with his gloves on talking to Teddy, and he's crying, sobbing, scared. And Teddy's like telling him, listen, fear is our friend. It's there to make sure we're ready for what's coming. You know what to do. Block out the emotions. Don't let your emotions control your actions. Like, you know exactly what you're going to do. Block out all this other noise. That guy is feeling nervous just like you. He's going to do what he's going to do. We're going to do what I'm going to do. And if you think if Mike Tyson is scared to the point of crying and he's got to be comforted by his coach, and then, by the way, he knocked out every single person he fought up to this point in the first round. Wow. That's how powerful fear is. And we've interviewed all the UFC champions, and every single one of them will tell you, oh yeah, when you're in the locker room, the worst part of any fight is being in the locker room before the fight. Teddy Atlas would always say, the ninjas start coming over the wall. The emotional ninjas start invading your brain of all these hypotheticals. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I use this with my kids all the time. I'm saying, they're nervous. Like, my one son gets terrified on Sunday nights. He gets the Sunday scaries like you can't imagine about school. And I tell him, I said, recognize that this is all a story you're telling yourself. Oh my God, Monday's stuck. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. But every Monday comes and every Monday goes, and none of these worst case scenarios happen. It's the same thing in our lives. We start telling ourselves stories about what could happen and what might happen, rather than just saying, this is what I'm going to make happen. And as soon as you embrace that belief, you'll be surprised at how easily you can make this come true. I know it sounds cliche and people are going to be like, no, screw this guy. He's lucky. I'm not lucky. I was terrible when I started running. I mean, look, terrible relatively speaking. I ran like a 3:30 marathon, which is, okay, I get it. Some people might say, are you crazy? That's good. Look, I was always an athlete. I played football and hockey in college, like 2 NCAA sports. I know I was athletic, but I wasn't an endurance athlete by any measure. I was slow as molasses in football. Like, there were linemen running faster than me in the 40-yard dash. But I knew I had a strong mindset and that I could deal with adversity because I had dealt with it forever. Like, I've always felt like I was like, man, these mother effers are always giving me like extra baggage to carry. I felt like as a child, I was like, I just want to like, does my brother have to punch the principal of school in the face and I have to be like all like talk of the town? Like, I don't want this. Like, I don't want any negativity that I didn't earn or deserve. If I did something to earn like some negative publicity, then I have to deal with that. But when other people heaping this bullshit on me, I was like, man, these guys are like a fucking anchor around my ankle. So the minute I got out of there and realized, like, oh my God, now no one else can control this but me. That's how everyone should view their life. It's like, I'm responsible for me. And if there's external variables that are having a negative impact, you ask yourself, what did you do to bring this on yourself? Because you're an adult. If someone's bringing you bad energy, guess what? You're letting them do it. Cut those sons of bitches out of your life. Don't make excuses for yourself. You know when you're doing the wrong thing and right thing, and that goes for me too. And listen, I've had my own struggles with drugs and other things, and at some point I had to take responsibility and be like, this is me. I'm doing this. I'm making these decisions. I'm going to take accountability and deal with it myself, and it's not always easy, but it is reality. You only get one chance to go through this simulation of life. Like, don't fuck around and waste time. Like, this is make the most of it, man. If life was a big amusement park, there are some people that would just go to like the merry-go-round that just stay there. Like, this is safe. There's no line. It's like no one's bumping and shoving. And then there's like, the crazy roller coaster that has a line and everyone's aggressive. Like, I want to try everything like multiple times. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this people that just take a 9-to-5 job, nothing wrong with it, but they like that safety. I don't want that. I want to work for myself where maybe I can get really rich and maybe I'll make no money for a year, but I control all those. I control all the results are caused by my action or inaction.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. So good. Okay. So you've mentioned now fighting a couple of times, and I love that you shared that about Mike Tyson and Teddy Atlas. Like, so what's your background with fighting? And are there some lessons from that? Obviously, you've taken some of that into running. But in general, are there some lessons from that we could harness and that have helped you, whether for running or just in life?
Yeah, so I just boxed. I started boxing probably in high school, mainly, honestly, in hindsight, because I was so scared of fighting. And while I got into a lot of fights as a child and young adult through my 20s, which is crazy to think of now. Like, in your 20s, you're an adult. Like, thinking about having a fight and like the possibility of really getting hurt is crazy. But you're just young and stupid, and I was just afraid all the time, and I didn't like being prisoner to that fear. Like, I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I didn't want to be unprepared, so I went to a boxing gym, scared shitless, scared to death, scared every single time I went in there, and I had a bunch of amateur fights. I was scared to death. Even looking back now, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I signed up for that voluntarily, went to like different athletic clubs all over New York and fought for the New York Athletic Club, like scared shitless. One time I fought the freaking coach of the other team in the main event. The guy beat the shit out of me, but I just remember thinking like, I can't believe I got roped into this. This guy's like gonna like now the coach of their team is gonna beat the crap out of me in the final fight of the night. So I'm waiting around all day, but I went in there and I hit him with some shots that made him like step back and be like, "Oh, good shot," as he was like in between pummeling me. But those were all lessons of like, in my mind, I was like, let me just get through this. Once I get through this, the next one's going to get easier. And they never did. But I don't know. It's like when fear is so overpowering, you're like, okay, I'm not going to be a prisoner of this. I'm going to go confront this and see why am I so scared of this? Let's get it on. Let's get it over with. It'd be like, I don't know, scared of studying, so you go get a law degree just to like prove to yourself you can do it. And that's what I did. And the lessons that I learned from that was nothing I've ever done compares to the fear of getting in the ring in front of a crowd of people and punching someone in the face to see who can do it the best, and basically like have a face punching contest. So when I think about running, I'm like, no one can touch me. Are you crazy? Like, let's go. This is like easy work. Because in boxing, you're exhausted and you're getting punched in the face. Now it's just exhausted. That was the easy part. So I think that's helped me massively. I think if a lot of amateur runners in high school and college are forced to like take boxing and have some like amateur fights, they'll probably be better runners in the long term, because then they'll know what real fear looks and feels like.
Yeah. Well, and I think whether it's boxing, you take boxing or something else, but I just heard like the lesson there too is like, do some hard shit at some point in your life, get through some hard times, some challenges. Maybe those are your environment that you didn't create, or it is something that you put yourself into, scared as all heck, but you walked in the door every day or enough times that you built up this resilience to be like, poof. When the running came, now you're like, I got this. No, like I'm not getting hit in the face. And I feel like similar in my life, I just have like a growing up, like it wasn't the best growing up history. So I left early on too. And that gave me this, determination and tenacity and like ability to suffer through a little bit more. But also I've suffered through some ultras and enough times to be like, oh, well, shoot, if I ran that race pregnant, of course I can do this, not pregnant.
I think the pregnant woman has a big advantage. They're tough. I think having kids is tough. I remember when my wife was pregnant, and now even when I see people I know pregnant, I can't help, depending on how well I know them, to be like, aren't you scared? Dude, look at that giant thing in there. Like, that has to get out somehow. I'd be like, oh my God, I've got this tumor on my leg. How are they going to get it off me? I'm just like, I don't know. It just creates complete panic. So I think anyone that can go through childbirth or carrying children is like, that's toughness.
Right?
Women always seem to bounce back after pregnancy and like be even better athletes than they were before they had kids. It's crazy.
Yes, and definitely, I've read studies about that, especially in the ultra world. And I would definitely say I've experienced some of that myself, had some PRs and, podium finishes post babes. So, and it's only going to get better. So actually, this is a good segue, because talking about just all of the training that you do, like I'm remembering when you said 6 days a week, 5 days a week running, the long run on Saturday, the biking on Sunday. And now you've been doing this for 15 years, aside from everything you've done before then. So a couple things. One, how do you make the time to do your workouts and get that in? Especially, part two is like, especially with having a family and working, like you have this full life and everybody wants to be like, I have no time. So how do you get it in?
Well, number one, your health and wellness, mental and physical well-being is the most important priority and your biggest responsibility in life. And I say that because without your health, mental and physical, you're useless to anyone and everyone. And in some cases, you're actually a burden to the people that you love. So I try to get up and do it before anyone else wakes up. I normally do that as to not inconvenience them. But if at times they have to wait an hour to do something that we're all doing as a family, then that's part of life, that they know that, listen, Dad has his own things. And and if they had their things, I'd have to make, when they have their things, I have to make accommodations for them. But like, your health is your responsibility to say, I'm not going to do this today because I've got to work, or I've got to deal with the kids. Like, really? Number one, work isn't life. That's like just a means to an end. No matter what it is, like without your health, none of it makes any sense. Like, I don't understand people that are super unhealthy and overweight. I mean, if there's ever been a time to like get a grip on your health, it's now. I mean, COVID disproportionately kills people who are obese and unhealthy. That's a fact. The more unhealthy you are, the more COVID is going to get you. However, the healthier you are, and I would argue, and I don't want to get into a whole friggin' COVID conspiracy conversation, but I'd argue like Joe Rogan, the healthier you are, the more resilient you are. And I would argue that only in rare circumstances that I know of, I don't know any healthy people that have died from COVID, and I know a ton of people that have had COVID. I'm not trying to poo-poo or diminish anyone that's lost someone from COVID. It's terrible. But practically speaking, the more unhealthy you are, the more negative COVID is going to impact you. So, with all that being said, take care of yourself. It's your only responsibility. It's the first responsibility of the day. Get your friggin' healthy. You can't wake up an hour earlier. Better yet, here, don't wake up an hour earlier. Go to bed an hour earlier. I guarantee no one is up. I'm working until midnight, then I'm going to sleep, then I'm waking up at 6 and I'm working again. Bullshit. Go to bed at 11 and wake up at 5 if that's your schedule. And get that 1 hour of exercise. 1 hour of exercise change your life. But it has to be an hour of exercise, discomfort, comfortably uncomfortable, not, I walked around the neighborhood for an hour. Come on, man. There wasn't a single moment of that you felt uncomfortable other than the act of waking up and getting your ass out of bed. Go get uncomfortable for an hour. I call it comfortably uncomfortable, but initially most people would find it very uncomfortable, but you'll learn to live with that. Trust me. It's much better than being dead. And so that's it. I make time. It's not even a question. If we go on vacation, we went skiing last winter. I ran every single day 10 miles in the friggin' blizzard, 15 degrees every day, 10 miles before we started in the mountains, uphill, downhill. And I just did it. And then when I got there, got the kids ready, and we went to ski all before this mountain opened. That's just the way I live my life. And like I said, if someone is enamored or impressed with this, I'm not doing anything special. You can do the same exact thing, and I guarantee you'll get similar results. And on a relative basis, I guarantee you'll blow away any personal goals that you have if you just follow this simple plan of not making excuses. I don't eat a perfectly healthy diet. I eat pretty reasonably, but I love desserts and cakes and treats always after dinner, right before bed, the worst time you should have them. But I do it because no one's perfect. And, maybe someday I'll cut those out and see how fast I can really run. But for now, that's the balance that works for me.
Oh my gosh. First of all, you and me both, Ken. I love my sweets and desserts and a lot of the time before bed. So I'm with you. But right to that point, like we can do that. We can do that when you're moving your body on a consistent basis. And I thank you for sharing all of that, because I think that's really great to hear the power of working out and putting it as the number one priority. Like, straight up, and you can see the results in your life, and anybody can get the same results even if they wanted a fraction of those results with moving their body 100%. And doing something. And so
that's right.
And you said too, both for mental and physical. So I saw something about you posting before about like running in the morning and how it helps with like not being depressed and getting the endorphins going so you can actually have like a kick-ass day. So If you could just share like some insights onto the mental side of things too, like maybe if there's been a day or two when you had to miss a workout, or just in general, like the difference between working out consistently, like what that's made for your mental health, a difference.
Well, I don't miss days. I mean, I think last year I didn't run 3 days, and maybe they involved like crazy travel where I had an early morning flight across the country, got in super late, flights delayed, like shit that's completely out of my control, where like, and every time it happens, I'm like, why doesn't an airport have even a shitty gym that you could pay $50 to go in and like run on a treadmill? Like I pay $1,000 some days to just be like, I'm delayed here for 3 hours. I just got to sit here wasting my time. And when you do these kind of things, set these kind of fitness goals, you learn to appreciate every single second that you don't have something to do, including exercise. So when someone robs my time, I can never get it back. You can't buy more. It's gone forever. And nothing pisses me off more than wasting my time. So anyway, I don't miss days by choice. Occasionally when it happens, I just roll with it. I mean, part of having a right mindset about training is also being rational and being like, all right, shit, sometimes things are out of your control. I know that I'd do it if I could, but I would say that, prior to finding endurance, like I would look to different drugs and things like that to like, whether it was Adderall or Xanax or opioids to like replace what was missing in my life. And then running gave that to me, and endurance sports gave that rush to me, that natural high that, drug addicts would depend on chemicals to give them that feeling. This is the closest I can get without doing something illicit. And I would suggest people listen to the Andrew Huberman podcast. Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist from Stanford, like world-renowned brain scientist. And he's got a whole podcast that my friend Rob, who produces my podcast, Rob Moore, produces that podcast as well. And that podcast is like, it's like getting a degree in neuroscience for free. He does an hour lecture every day on different components of neuroplasticity and basically brain health. And, it talks about all kinds of different tools. He teaches the lesson and also gives you tools in which to improve certain elements of your psychiatric health, I guess you would say. He's not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he's a neuroscientist and giving you real tools and supplements to enhance your brain and brain functioning.
That's awesome. Ooh, thank you for that resource. I'm definitely going to look that up. I'll have to link it up. Okay, so we kind of dove deep into a lot of there, and I know we're kind of getting close to time. Do you mind if we go a little bit longer?
Yeah, no, keep going. Okay,
so I wanted to get like a little like tangible with your training because of all these like very badass accomplishments in running. And to many people, it is like, oh, how do you get from a 3:30 to a 2:30 marathon? It seems impossible. Yeah, you've done it multiple times now. And so
not only have I done it, but I'll tell you exactly how to do it if that's what you get.
You got
it. Every single thing that I do and have done is on Strava, readily available.
Awesome.
You can go there, take it. You can write down. Sometimes if I do structured workouts, I try to put in the description or in the notes like what I did, like a typical marathon workout, like a really hard marathon workout looked like, okay, 10 miles at like 6:30 pace. Again, adjust the pace accordingly. So 10 miles at 6:30 pace, my marathon pace is 5:40. So 6:30 is faster than I would normally run in my maintenance runs. They're normally around 7 to 7:20 minute pace. So 6:30 pace, 10 miles, then 9 miles like this. Three sets of 3 miles that go like this. 5:45, 5:35, 5:25, back through 45, 35, 25. By the last mile at 5:25, when the recovery mile is at 5:45, and you're by yourself, and it's 95 degrees and 90% humidity, you want to die. I literally finished that last mile this last time, stopped my clock, stopped my watch, and just like fell over in the grass. There could have been like snakes and spiders in there. I was like, I'm going to drop dead. I'm physically going to die. That was hell on earth. That's a very hard workout. But there's a million of them on there. So that would be a weekend long. There's a long run. Marathon training looks like this, like 75 to 100 miles a week for 10 to 12 weeks. There's a long, hard workout every Saturday, a recovery run on Sunday, and on Wednesdays, like a track type speed workout. So it might be 8x400, 6x800, with X amount of rest in between sets. Those are friggin' that is, to me, is hard. That's as hard as the long one. I gotta like get my mind right. A few times in the summer, I'd have to ask my wife, and I never try to inconvenience her with my bullshit, but in the summer, a few times I'd have to ask her, can you drive up to the high school track? It's 2 miles away, and bring me just like 3 bottles of cold water, a change of clothes, because I'm drenched in sweat, and my sneakers are like go in the washing machine every single day from like May through September. When the clothes get washed after every run, so do my sneakers, because they're soaked with sweat. And if you don't wash them, then you won't even be able to leave them in the house. So That's it. That's my training regimen and everything that I did. And matter of fact, I was talking to Matt Futterman, who's the sports editor for the New York Times, and he was like, "Damn, how are you doing this? It doesn't make sense that you're getting faster as you get older." And I said, "Well, I don't have a background in running as a kid, so I don't know what I could have run as a kid. And I've only in the last several years realized that my only limitations are in my mind." And more importantly, to that point, I get it. That doesn't make sense. How's the guy doing it? What's he taking? Like, I get all that stuff. But every single workout's on Strava. You can see the progression. Nothing that I ever did was like, that's superhuman. That doesn't make sense. I don't believe him. Like, okay, believe it or not, there's the every single thing. I've never not put anything on there, ever.
And do you cross train at all too? Like lift weights or anything?
Nights. Yeah, actually, I think it's still on there. Last night on Instagram, on my story, I put a short, 10-second video of my home gym. I have like a Rogue Fitness gym, and that all the equipment's from Rogue Fitness: a squat rack, bench press, a bench, dumbbells, kettlebells. I have a wood weight treadmill, a heavy bag. So 3 or 4 days a week during heavy training, I go down there for like 30 to 45 minutes and just rifle through high intensity weightlifting. I'm not trying to look like a runner.
Okay, awesome. And so then the other part of it that I'm wondering, and I'm sure there's other people, is the nutrition part. Like, I think that was a big part for me in ultra running, and ultra running is a little bit of a different animal. When you have to be out there that long, you have to eat a little bit more. But nutritionally, like, what are you doing, or what have you found that's really helped you to hone in to be this fast and to train this much?
Well, I don't know what I would credit. I don't know that my nutrition, I would credit the nutrition, but I can tell you what I do. First of all, I've done some work professionally with David Sinclair, who wrote the book Lifespan. He's a genetics professor at Harvard Medical School, very famous anti-aging longevity guru. So per his guidance, I do intermittent fasting so I eat dinner probably let's say the last food that I have is around 8 at night. Then I don't eat anything again until noon the next day. And so that includes training. Although I take that back. After training, I have a recovery shake with some athletic greens, and I take all my supplements with the recovery drink right after running. But then I don't eat any food until at least noontime. And usually 9 times out of 10, that's just like a salad that my wife will chop up: spinach, lettuce, just a bunch of vegetables in this thing. And then I put it in a giant Ziploc for the week. I put a lot of nuts and berries and just anything that looks healthy. I dump it in there and just put some relatively healthy avocado oil based salad dressing on it. And then I'm usually good until sometimes I'll need a little snack before dinner. I might have some nuts or something very sensible. Like I'm making good decisions all day. Then I'll go down to my gym, hit weights right before dinner. Then by the time dinner comes, then that's when the wheels come off the wagon. And I just I eat whatever I want. I try to make sure that I get some basic nutrients. I try to get a lot of fruits and healthy fats and good stuff. But then on top of that, for a long time, I didn't eat meat. But now I've started to eat some healthy meats here and there. I'll have steak maybe once a week, high quality organic steak, typically from Bel Campo. I just, but then after dinner, I just sometimes become a monster and I'll just eat a half a pie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all my effort today was completely wasted. I just ate that damn pie. And then the next day I'll wake up motivated to make up for eating a pie. And it's just a vicious cycle. It happens every day.
At least it's working for you. Whatever, it's actually working for you. So after that run in the morning, you have the recovery shake, but that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of water. But you'll be shocked at how quickly your body adjusts to this. I know people a lot of times I could never not do that. I could never not eat in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I used to feel like that too. But after a week of not eating in the morning, I can go to bed starving and wake up and feel like, okay, my body is your body likes a schedule. It likes routine, whether it's the exercise and the diet. When I'm not on that routine, I feel like I'm flirting with disaster in terms of my health. I feel like I'm about to get sick at any minute. And I used to always get sick when I was traveling and I was running myself ragged. It was predictable. I was I know I'm going to get sick, dude. I haven't slept enough. I'm traveling. I'm trying to do everything. And like I said, I never would miss the running. So on top of all the added stress in my life, there would still be like an intense workload of exercise. But since COVID started, I haven't been sick once. I haven't been sick in 2 years, but I've also have my routine is much more predictable. I'm not like flying as much, although lately I've been traveling a lot, but I'm doing a better job of managing my time, and working for myself allows me the flexibility. Well, now I'm working with another group of guys, so it's a little bit more stressful with the new company, but I try to just manage my time accordingly so that I'm not spread so thin that I'm flirting with disaster.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful what you said. And I've definitely heard that in a lot of Eastern medicine is like, whatever you do, if you can keep it consistent as far as your schedule, if you eat a big dessert at night, okay, whatever. But try to go to bed at 11 p.m. and get up at 5 a.m. And just do the same thing. That consistency our body does like, and it's easier for our bodies. And that's funny too. Oh, I was about to post the other day of how I have not been sick for like over about basically a year, but my little guys got sick this last week, and then it just got like all passed around, and I'm like, oh, okay. So first time in the year. So, but still a testament to like your health and how powerful that is. Okay. And you mentioned one more thing, like really tangible here, that you do take some supplements. So would you share with us what you take?
Yeah, of course. So on the anti-aging front, first thing in the morning, I'll take a supplement called NMN, Nancy, Mary, Nancy. And don't ask me what it stands for. You can look it up. It's called Pure NMN. I take like 500 milligrams, 500 grams. It comes in a little scoop or 2 scoops of whatever it is. Maybe it's milligrams. In the morning, just mix with some water. It says sublingual, but I just stir it in the water per David Sinclair's instructions. I take resveratrol, which is the molecule that's found in the skins of red grapes. That is, when they talk about the benefits of red wine, they're talking about that it has resveratrol in it, but the amount you need far exceeds the amount you could drink in red wine. So I take NMN and resveratrol first thing in the morning. Then when I'm done running, I take a recovery shake from Amp Human or Momentous. There's Amp Human bought Momentous, so I'll take Momentous Recovery, and then into that recovery shake, I'll mix per Huberman's recommendations. I mix in a scoop of glutamine, a scoop of amino acid complex powdered amino acid supplement. I take some creatine, which makes your muscles hold a little bit more water, and I'm constantly dehydrated. And I do try to lift weights to like maintain some muscle. And I think that also having resistance training in your routine as you get older is critically important, because after 40 you start to lose like 1% muscle mass per year. And resistance training and heavy weightlifting stimulates the production of natural growth hormone, your own human growth hormone. So glutamine, creatine, aminos, and collagen peptides, which are like, relatively new development in health and fitness supplementation, is really good for joints, connective tissue, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I'm not a scientist, so you're asking me, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be able to justify any of these things or tell people why they should take them, but I'm telling you just what I do.
Yeah. So
that's the mix. Oh, and then I have a scoop, and every day has a scoop of Athletic Greens, which has like all daily minerals, vitamins, whole food sourced ingredients. And then on top, I drink that, and then I take vitamin C, D, and zinc as my like COVID protection. I also take Carnitil. This is all from Andrew Huberman's supplement protocol. I take Carnitil. Occasionally I'll take L-tyrosine from Thorne. I take fish oils, which Andrew Huberman would say the number one supplement you should take for your brain health is fish oil. So I take the fish oil. Then that's it.
Awesome.
And I'm good to go. And at night before I go to bed, I take theanine and I take magnesium.
Okay. Those are great. Those are definitely ones I've heard of and know of. And I like to share that with people. I definitely take some supplements too. And over the years or training, it's changed at times. Or as new things come out or new research comes out. But I feel like, you know what? It can't hurt. especially if it's a quality source, then like, why not see how this changes or could affect you? And that's everybody's job, is to be aware of your own body if something like that could work for you or me. So thank you for sharing all of those.
Oh, that's all right. I'm happy to do it. I hope I didn't sound like a supplement lunatic, but again, I'm pressing my body, for at least, I would say on average 2 hours a day. So I'm getting like 14, 15 hours of exercise every week, intense exercise, very intense. So I know that I need to like supplement my diet with some of these things that I know I'm going to run low on. And like I say, there's tons of evidence, or even if it's fake news, about vitamin C, D, and zinc protecting you from COVID. You know what? For a few dollars a week, I'll take my chances and I'd rather be safe than sorry. Yeah,
exactly. And that's where I think it is. It's like, I mean, why not try some things and see if it works? And I've actually added vitamin D recently this year to my supplements. And, there's not like some days with D, days like the random days I forget to take it or I'm traveling.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, first time I'm sick all year. So it says something.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, Ken, thank you so much. I have one final question, and then I'll kind of open it up for you to share anything that we didn't get to talk about.
Sure.
And I feel like we've covered a lot and given a lot of like golden nuggets to people. But I would love to just hear, like, so if somebody is just getting started working out, or they've been on that like start-stop cycle, not necessarily making it the priority that we talked about, like, what would you tell them? What's some advice that you would give them on like, this is how you can get started and stay with your health routine?
I don't have like a sugar-coated, candy-coated answer. I would just say, like, listen, you only get one shot. Don't waste time. Every single day that goes by is a day you're not getting back. And, I heard someone say on Joe Rogan once that man has two lives. The one when they think they'll live forever. And the second life starts the minute you realize you're not going to live forever. And I'd say I'm in that second camp now where I'm like, holy shit, I'm 50, man. Average lifespan is 78. I mean, I could be looking at only 28 years left, 28 more summers. It's so overwhelming when you think about it in that context. And I know for a lot of people, it seems insurmountable to even get started. And all I can say is the first step is always the hardest. The first time out the door is the hardest. But if you can get 2-3 days in a row, it's like recovery from drug addiction. It's like, stop worrying about 10 years from now, or 10 weeks, or 10 days, even 10 minutes. Just do what's right now, today. Just take it one day at a time. Just get out there and run. You don't have to run 10 miles. Run 100 yards, walk 100 yards, then run to the next telephone pole. When I was in Ironman, the third time I did the one in Hawaii, I had pneumonia 3 weeks before the race. I thought I was going to die. Like, no bullshit. No, it was scary. And when I got to Kona, I could barely, by the time I started going on to the run, I was in pretty good shape relative in the standings for my age group. And then I just realized, oh shit, this is going to be a death march. And what I did was, I would just pick a landmark up the road, and I'm like, I'm going to run till I get to that landmark, and then I'll walk until I get to some other arbitrary landmark. And that's how I kept myself motivated through 26 miles, feeling like I'm never going to make it. But I knew I would, and I knew I could. And I would say to anyone listening, if you're thinking about getting started on this journey, although I would imagine people that aren't into this lifestyle aren't going to listen to your podcast, because it's going to be a painful reminder of what's possible and what they're avoiding. But if you are listening to this and you're not doing these things, just start with a run around the block. Then the next day do 2. Keep adding on. It will become contagious. Momentum is like a gigantic tidal wave that can't be stopped once it gets started. But only you can start the wave. So,
that's great.
Just get out there and do it.
That's so great. Thank you, Ken. And so is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to share with people?
No, just along the lines of getting started, I will tell you that, if you're overweight or this is outside of your comfort zone, if you're someone that responds really well to like positive adulation from your peers, I guarantee you that if you start doing things that are physically challenging and start to like, you'll get a lot of positive attention and positive feedback. That's been one of the byproducts of everything that I've done, is that I didn't set out for people to pay attention to me as a runner. I just had my own personal mission. And one of the unexpected niceties that's come from all of this is the attention and the opportunity to share my story and my opinions and thoughts on running and endurance and mindset with people like yourself. So everything good in my life has come from running. Everything. Work, relationships. It's just made me a better person. And I tell people, like, I tell anyone listening, don't waste another minute. Just get out there and start. Like, I promise you, good things will start happening.
That totally just like, it's not breaking my heart. It's like warming my heart. Like, that's so powerful for people to hear that, especially when you've done all these things and you're at that opposite end of the spectrum where people are like, well, that could never be me. I could never touch that.
That wasn't my goal. This has been like a bonus, like I said, but I will tell you that a lot of the professional relationships I have, the best professional relationships, the ones that have had the biggest impact on me professionally and financially, have all come from a shared passion for endurance, whether it's people that are impressed with my performance or my peers and competitors that are like, okay, we have a lot in common. Let's do some business together. Like, I'm telling you, everything, my life has improved dramatically since I set some like ambitious endurance goals, and that doesn't have to be a goal, but it just progressively got better. And I'm telling you, the same thing will happen for you. Stop wasting time. Just get out there and start doing it. Take first step. I guarantee if you're someone who can't run a mile, if in 6 months you tell people that you ran 10 miles in the morning, they'll be so blown away by your accomplishment. You'll appreciate the respect and adulation you get from your peers.
Let's go. Let's go. I love that, Ken. Okay. Thank you so much, Ken, for taking all of this time.
It's my pleasure.
And do you want to tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, to keep up with you?
I mean, you can find me. I'm readily available. Ken Rideout, I think, is, I don't even know what my Instagram, maybe it's Ken_Rideout, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If you search Ken Rideout, you'll find me. Mainly, I post a lot of stuff on Instagram. And again, that's been something where I've just recently started doing more and more because the feedback loop has been crazy. People have been so kind and so appreciative and respectful of the things that I've done. And it's motivated me to share more of journey.
Oh, so great. Thank you, Ken, so much. I so appreciate all your time. And I know everyone is going to get so much from this. I've already gotten a lot from this. So I really appreciate it.
Well, like I said, thank you for having me. I'm like very honored and humbled to like that anyone even knows who I am or wants to hear from me. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, Ken. All right. Bye. Bye.